Hi, my name is Agata Stoińska and I'm a founder of Delight Studios. Today I would like to show you around because this place may not exist in the next few days. Many of you have visited us many times, but some of you have never been here before, or you may have never even heard of us. Today I would like to show you what an amazing asset that is and what a waste it's going to be if we lose it. So come inside and I will show you around. This is Studio A. As you can see, it's full of light, high ceiling. It's over 120 square meters. This is our site, which we used for photo shoots. There were loads of film and TV productions here, performances, exhibitions, fashion shows, you name it. When I came across this building back in 2008, I was actually looking for a space for myself, for my own little photography studio. Obviously, this building was way too big just for one person. However, I always had that dream about finding a place where creatives, artists, and community can come together and exchange ideas and work on various projects. When I saw this building first time, it looked completely derelict. It was actually a garage, and that's why we have a ramp here, so you can drive upstairs with your props, or you can do a car shoot. It actually looked like this, and that was after cleaning and clearing the space. My background is in architecture, so as an architect, I was able to see through the dust the enormous potential of this space. At the beginning, I had an investor. He was a developer himself, so he had access to the builders. However, it was September 2008, so he probably already felt the recession. And within a few weeks into the renovations, he texted me, "Sorry, I changed my mind," and pulled out all the money and the builders as well. So I was literally left in the middle of the construction site. So I called every single of my friends, just asking if they know anyone with money or how I could potentially get funds for this place. Someone recommended me to contact local enterprise board. That was actually the first time when I heard that something like this existed. I had just a couple of weeks to prepare an application, which was fortunately successful. And then based on this, I got a loan. And that's how I was able to finance this place. However, the biggest help I received was from all those people I reached out to and shared my story with. They couldn't help me with money, but they offered to come here and renovate this place with me by painting, cleaning, sweeping the floors. They were friends of friends, people who I've never met before. And I cannot list all their names here, but I will be always very grateful for everything they did, because thanks to their work, this place had a chance to exist. Over the years, we have been adding different bits and pieces to this building. Like, for example, those offices upstairs, or this one here, which served us for years as an artist residency. That was supported by NEIC and DCC, and the latest one was with Luke McManus. He was working here during COVID on his famous North Circular.
Reclined on the beach while the wild waves were rolling, in sorrow condoling, I heard a fair maid.
Our journey with Delight Studios has never been easy. We started with Recession, then Nama took over, then on some stage we were sold to the Vulture Fund. The ownership of the building was never clear. We've been waiting forever for landlord to fix the roof, ensure proper fire exit, or address a whole long list of repairs. We have never had enough money in one go to address the major works ourselves. And anyway, we needed the permission from the landlord, and all our calls and emails were ignored. On some stage, we didn't even have a landlord. No one wanted to admit who should take responsibility for it. As an architect, I always dreamt about the moment when we win a lotto or find a philanthropist who will be willing to invest in the redevelopment of this building to its full potential. And one day someone asked me actually a very good question. If you had all this money, do you even know what would you like to do with this building? So together with a good friend of mine, an amazing architect, Jacek Rzepka, and another friend and mentor, engineer Paul Nolan, we put our dreams into drawings. So here in this studio, obviously, besides replacing the roof, we would like to lift the roof up a little bit higher, so that would allow for proper height for the mezzanine floors, and we would have here more of those little spaces for artists and creatives. We could fit here probably about 13 of those spaces, and that would create in the middle like a square, a courtyard, where people just can meet up for a chat or a coffee. We'd have to close down the ramp for fire safety reasons, but this way we would gain much more space. Anyway, by then we would have a lift which would be big enough for bringing all props, and finally we would have a proper disabled access. And here my big dream is to drop this roof down and create like a internal roof garden, which would be perfect for outdoor yoga or just hang out. And keeping in mind that we don't really have any outdoor space here, that would be like a little Eden, perfect place. We have a massive roof here. It's pitched roof, and next door there's another huge pitched roof as well. So together with our housemate, Native Events, who are specializing in sustainability, we're looking into installing solar panels and other energy-saving ways. We would be able to generate enough energy not only to heat up and run the entire building, but also to distribute energy to our neighbors. Anyway, our idea was to make the building as green as possible, make it fully sustainable. And now I will walk you to our reception area. Here is another office, and that's our common area, kitchen, and a kind of dining area. Our housemates used to hang out here for their lunches, coffee breaks, and meetings. Here in the future, we plan to reopen this big door and install a balcony or a massive window. It's the south side, so it would bring more light and it would nicely heat up this area. And this is our wall of fame, which is a memory after one of our Delights events. For a few consecutive years, we ran exhibitions called Homeless Gallery. They are actually portraits of the visitors of this event. It was back in 2010. We had over 100 photographers, and during the opening day, there were hundreds of people visiting the exhibition. There were queues outside the building. It was amazing weather, DJ, everyone was in a good mood. It was absolutely brilliant. So I had this small setup with just one light and the camera, and I was asking visitors to make a crazy face or give me a smile. And on the same day, we were printing those portraits, and by the end of the day, the whole wall was plastered with the images. So sometimes people were coming back twice or next day to find their face on the wall. And this is Studio B, our favorite place in the entire studios. It's famous for its amazing atmosphere, size, fireplace, and even lighting. So we're in the afternoon here, but the evening the sun is much lower, and then it's so strong that it feels like if there were some filming lighting outside the building creating this dramatic scene. There's so many things I still would love to do in this room. And to be honest, everyone who's visiting the studio first time, they walk first into Studio A and they're amazed with the space. And then they walk in here and they all want to use this room. We used to have here loads of film and TV productions. One of them was the Reaper Street. The crew converted this whole room into 19th century boxing club. So here in the center, we had a boxing ring, and all the contemporary features were removed or covered. I wasn't here when the team was converting this room, and I came back in the evening. I forgot something and there was no one in, and I walked into this room and wanted to turn the light on, but couldn't find any switches. So I used my torch in my mobile, and when I turned it on, it was just like waking up in a dream. Realized that I'm in completely different time and space. And then a few days later, the place went back to normal. We also used to have here jazz nights. So imagine here, fireplace on, the band playing here, loads of candle lights everywhere, little tables and chairs. It looked like a New York loft. They were just magical. Another great events we had here were organized by Homebeat.
Sail from July, fall unbound, and we still long, for we flow.
And I think one of my favorites was with Lubomir Menlik. He's a Ukrainian pianist. And we had a piano set up here and just one spotlight on Lubomir and loads of candle lights in the windows. And all the seats were all around. And it was a rainy night, so you could hear the rain. And it was like a part of the performance. So everyone in the audience had their eyes closed and they were just listening to Lubomir's music. Another great event which we had here was organized by So Far Sound, and that was for Amnesty International. And Delight was the secret location. So among the performers, there was, for example, Hosier, and tickets were for free, but you had to apply for tickets, and then there was a lottery. And only, I think there was 150 people who were selected for this show. And all the guests were asked to bring just a pillow and a blanket. Many of them, they have never been in Delight and they have never heard of it. So they had no idea what to expect. And then on the day, they were queuing outside. And then the first thing was that they entered Studio A. We created like a path with tea lights in Studio A. And then they were getting to this room through this little door. And that's when they were discovering this space. It was an amazing evening, and I think we all had tears in our eyes when Hosier started singing his Take Me to Church. We have here also those strips of professional dance floor. When we were renovating the building, there was this girl, Anna, a friend of mine, who, while she was cleaning this room, like cleaning the windows and sweeping the floors, she pictured that room as a stage for contemporary dance. She was in marketing, but her real passion was dance. And when we opened the studio, a few days after, she approached me and told me that during the renovations, she put together a group of people who would be interested in coming here after work and practicing dance. Well, there were 6 of them, but none of them have been dancing before. I wasn't really sure how serious they were because every day after they had their rehearsals, I found like a couple empty wine bottles. However, a few months later, they asked me, they announced that they would like to donate for the studio a dance floor, which they ordered in UK, and they would like to book a studio for their first show. So their first performance took place here, and it was amazing. It was fully professional show. And then they were booked by Fringe Festival, and for the next couple of years, they were performing in different venues. And years later, a few more strips of that floor was bought by another contemporary dance company, and that's why we're able now to cover the entire floor. And that dance company was actually created by my partner in crime, Stacey Gill, who is an amazing multidisciplinary artist and our art director. And together with Maria Nilsson-Waller, who is the Swedish choreographer, they set up a contemporary dance company called Flora Fauna. Together, Stacey and Maria for months were running here workshops for a group of local women from Ballybog and Sheriff Street, aged between 20-something and 70-something. So you had here like granddaughter dancing with grandmother. It was a brilliant community and art project. And after months training, they ended up performing Project Art Center. And the project is called The River. So I will put here somewhere a link so you'll be able to watch. It's just an 11 minutes long documentary, but it's absolutely worth seeing. We're really, really proud of this project. And yeah, it was probably the most significant one we've ever done in Delight. So this room in the future, I would like to keep as a blank canvas. So it would be always like this big open space, which could be transformed into anything you imagine. You could also connect this room with Studio A, and then imagine having like reception drinks in that little courtyard area, and then the guests could walk into this amazing space. There are endless possibilities, and the space can be uniquely tailored for any event, exhibition or performance. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to book this room for over 4 years now. As I mentioned before, the situation regarding the ownership of this building was always unclear. Actually, the building was always owned by DCC, but the main lease was a moving part, and that was between various entities like private company, NAMA. On some stage, we ended up being sold to Vulture Fund. So we were the only one looking after the building and patching it here and there, and just doing it from the income which we're getting from our commercial bookings. And then the rest we're investing in the culture program. However, the situation took a new turn in 2016. The NAC initiative, so that's Northeast Inner City Initiative, was established to work on the regeneration of this area. And that was actually the first time when we felt noticed. Delight Studio became answer for some of the issues raised in the Mulvey report. And DCC began the process of regaining the full possession of the building. It was a very lengthy process, but finally in 2020, it was successful. A series of reports were conducted, including fire safety assessment. Unfortunately, that one shown again that the building didn't comply with the fire regulations. And since then, since the beginning of 2020, we lost access to most of the building, including Studio B. We actually lost 80% of our income, so it was a very difficult period. But together with DCC, we were looking for solutions, and DCC asked us to organize a design team and come up with an overall redevelopment of this building. So imagine, it was just a perfect project for us. Soon after, the first lockdown started, so we had to close down the building anyway. In the meantime, we prepared a project which was accepted by city architects and by the planners. Also, DCC was aware that they will need a significant amount of money for the renovation, so they already included our project in their URDF application. So it's Urban Regeneration Development Fund. It's a European funding. Well, however, considering the present situation, I'm not really sure if this project will ever come to fruition. Anyway, while waiting for the funding for the major works, we agreed with DCC to clear out downstairs area, which had been left neglected because the previous tenants left years ago. They were using it for garages and workshops, so it looked like a dungeon. It was dark and full of rubbish. It took us a long time to fix it because, again, even though DCC supported us with some funding, the funding was limited, and we still had to bring some money from our commercial bookings, and we had to take a loan. However, we're very proud of what we achieved. Well, let's go. I will show you now the ground floor of the building. So we are on the ground floor level now. We've been opening this space bit by bit since 2022, and we kind of fully opened it in 2023. So this is the area which we called foyer. This is those big curtains you can open up, and there's a gate leading to North Great Clarence Street. So if we had exhibitions here, we were opening those big gates, and that was our main entrance for our visitors. And during the warmer months, what we were planning here was to scatter chairs all around the streets in different areas, and then install like small speakers around the building and drop leaflets to our neighbors with information that maybe, let's say, around noon or lunchtime, there will be something special happening. And then this area here would serve us as a stage. And let's say around 1 o'clock, we would open the gate, open the curtains, and there would be like a choir or a jazz band playing for 30, 40 minutes. And then we'd just close the curtains, close the gate, and everything would go back to normal. So it would be just a very small event, but something special for our neighbors and people just passing by to enjoy, and just to make our neighborhood a bit more special and exciting in a good way. And this is our open space gallery. So this open gallery, we were hoping to have more accessible on day-to-day basis. Because we're not using this space for anything else, we would make it like very affordable for artists to rent it out if they would like to do their own exhibition. You can obviously use any other space in the building for that purpose, but this one is good because we're not using it for anything else, and also it has this direct entrance from the street. Then next, that's our Studio D. So that's another space which is the smallest from all our rooms, but still has a decent size for smaller shoots and productions. This is another artist room, and this one is our lounge area. So you can use it as a break room, or it could be an extension of the gallery. We also used to use it for our meeting point gatherings. So they were events organized together with Darren Henrik from Curious Minds, and we had those evenings of inspirational talks about philosophy, science, and well-being, and that was followed by artist talk. So it was just a perfect event for meaningful conversations after work in the middle of the week. It was a really nice event. And here behind this door, we have Studio F. So that's another space for events, photo shoots, TV productions. So behind this black curtain, there is another big gate which you can open to Dunn Street. So our building is on the corner, and now if you imagine this door open and the other gate, which I showed you before, that creates like this internal street. So it's just perfect for Sunday markets. We actually planned a very big Christmas market for last December. Together with Native Events, we're planning 3-day sustainable family market. So it would be full of workshops for kids, and there will be cafe and mulled wine and live music. So I think you can imagine how brilliant this event could have been. Again, unfortunately, due to the present situation, we had to cancel it in the very last minute. Another great event which we had here, it was a well-being event. It was a whole day event in collaboration with 5 Lamps. So again, we had here like loads of workshops and yoga classes and building mandalas. And actually in this room, we had ecstatic dance. It was like a morning session organized by Darren again with his friend Ryan O'Shaughnessy. And it was just brilliant because for many of the locals, that was the first time when they visited the studio. And it's not only that they stayed for the entire day, but they kept calling their family and friends to join them for the rest of the day. What else? Well, we had here also, we had here a big exhibition here in partnership with Photo Museum. So a few years ago, like in 2010, I set up that platform called Blow Photo for promoting fine art photography through publications, exhibitions, mentoring programs. And Photo Museum invited us, myself and my co-curator, Monika Chmielarz, to curate for them an exhibition of young Irish photographers as part of their season of photography in our own image. One of the photographers who we wanted to present at that show was Roisin White. So she was our awardee of the Blow Photo book program, Fuse, and former artist in residence. And because we knew her experience working with young people, we asked her to coordinate workshops with local kids. It took us like a year to organize it because we had to invite all local schools and local youth centers individually, introduce them to the project and figured out all the logistics with their schedules, write policies and go through Garda vetting. But then Roisin, together with another locally based artist, Ali Waters, they ran like a 6-8 weeks program. And the photography, they were teaching photography, but it was not only teaching them the skill of photography, it was actually a great excuse for a conversation and for getting to know each other better and give them another tool of self-expression. And then at the end of those workshops, we invited all those young people to present the results of their work during the main exhibition. We asked our famous musician, Gemma Dunleavy, to give an inspirational speech, and we had loads of guests, and everyone was absolutely amazed with the work by those young artists. It was so refreshing and honest and personal. Another exhibition we do this on yearly basis is the What's Your Issue exhibition organized by a local youth center, Swan, which is just around the corner. So for several months, the kids are working with, led by an artist working on their individual art projects. And then by the end of it, they presenting the outcome of it here in the gallery setting. So every year they eagerly waiting for the moment when they can invite all their friends and family and show them what they've been working for all those months. Every work is extremely personal. It's beautiful and very touching. So if this exhibition ever happens here again, it's absolutely worth seeing. We used to have as well, culture night. That's another one. Culture night used to be organized by our former studio manager, Ashlyn Redding, and she set the bar really, really high. Fortunately, last year, Luke McManus agreed to produce that event for us. And in this room, he converted that room into a proper cinema with 2 screens and like over 100 seats. So for the first part of the evening, we're showing his short movies here. And then in parallel, he was running talks and presentations in the lounge area with local artists. And we ended up the evening with screening his North Circular here. So again, for many of the local people, that was the first time when they were able to see that movie. And it was actually absolutely packed. Every single seat was sold out. And even in the end, we were adding more seats and they were selling on the spot straight away. But it's important to mention that we never intended to create another community center. There are many of them in the area and they're doing an amazing job. Our goal was always to create a culture center with inspiring, versatile and thought-provoking program. And even if the program might be challenging at times, it was important for us to make sure that the space would be always welcoming to everyone, to people from all walks of life, so they feel here comfortable, accepted and respected. This space was open only for 2 years, but we wanted to organize here more visual exhibitions. The last show which we hosted here was by Dutch visual artist Martijn Tellinga, and he had here like a week-long installation, which was very slow and meditative. So to experience it properly, one had to stay here for at least half an hour, preferably longer, or even come back here a couple of times during that week because the installation was evolving every day. So I will show you now the last room. This room we converted last year into dance and yoga studio. We haven't finished it fully yet. We would like to put here a proper dance floor with underfloor heating and open up this window to bring more natural light. We presented that room in September during our opening days, but unfortunately we didn't have a chance to use it since then. But we wanted to run here street dance classes and ballet classes, maybe in collaboration with Dance Island, which is just around the corner, and we already partnered with them before on the River project. And of course, yoga classes. And that's not only because I'm a yoga teacher and our studio manager, Jill Costello, is an amazing yoga teacher and she's well experienced with running her own workshops and retreats. But also about 3 years ago, Michael Dara Macaulay came up with a very good idea of, instead of running just yoga classes, to run yoga teacher training for local community. And he initiated partnership between Delight Studios, DCC and Reformation School of Yoga. And together we sponsored scholarships for people living or working in the area. So we already run 2 of those 11 months long programs, and we had by now something like 38 fully qualified yoga teachers. Not all of them will be active teachers, but I'm sure for all of them it was a life-changing experience. And now they have a set of tools which they can use for life. And I'm sure as well that had a positive impact not only on them, but on their friends and families. So the plan was to hire some of those graduates who wanted to share their practice, and this way create new jobs and also attract more of the local audience. And besides Yoga, we used to run within our program other well-being events, so like sound bath with gongs or breathworking sessions. When we open these big gates, because it's southwest side, we're getting here loads of light and it stays with us till the late evening. So it's just a perfect spot for a cafe. If you imagine those two gates open and creating this inviting space for an outdoor seating, and then the main entrance would be set back, so there would be still some sheltered space for the sitting area. Just imagine nice music, comfortable seats, cozy atmosphere, delicious cakes and coffee. And then inside markets or exhibitions and well-being events, so the whole ground floor would be buzzing with activities. And then upstairs in our Studio A, all those little individual artist studios with their courtyard, and then Studio B, this amazing open space for different events and performances. Imagine this building being fully renovated, dry and warm and fit for purpose. Green building, and together with income coming from commercial bookings, we could solely focus on our programming and not rely on grants only. It would make us sustainable and independent, allowing us to play a major role in regeneration of this area and bringing more culture to the city, still supporting other organizations and individuals. We have been here for more than 15 years. And even though our journey has never been easy and our resources have been spread always very thin, I believe we managed to accomplish a lot. But there's still so much more we could do. So this is delight for you. I'm not sure if we ever going to be able to enjoy this place again, or what's going to happen with this undeniable asset of Dublin. But I hope you as well can see the potential of this place. And at the end, I would love to thank everyone who has ever been part of this project. They've been countless people involved in our journey. Friends tirelessly helping with renovations and running events. Our dedicated team, studio managers, assistants, and volunteers. Our supportive board who always believed in us. Invaluable mentors, and our housemates who have helped us to create this home-like atmosphere here. And all those talented artists who recognize the essence of this space and helped us to embrace our vision with their creativity. Also our loyal clients who have been coming back to us even though sometimes the conditions were cold, but still they were able to recognize the uniqueness of this place. All our facilitators running various events, our loyal audience, and finally our creative and local community who have shown an amazing support, especially now when we needed it so much. Thank you for all your kind messages, your calls, popping in for coffee and a chat when it was needed the most. Thank you for all your letters of support. I hope this is not the end, but even if it is, it was all worth it. Thank you.